remember with a sense of nostalgia the days of Nigerian Airways. Its iconic green, white, and green wings were a national pride to behold in the skies, though I can't quite recall if I ever flew in one. But seeing that majestic emblem soaring overhead was enough for me to stir pride in every Nigerian. And of course, there was British Caledonia. You know, now I think it's known as British Airways, leaving its mark in our skies. But back then, the Nigerian skies were dotted with a few indigenous aircraft, navigating modest runways with cautious optimism, of course. Now, airlines like Chattangi, Sosoliso, and Dana, ADC, also carved out their own legacies, you know, making indelible marks on aviation history. Now, our airspace, though evolving, was also full of promise. But like every great stride, ours came with, you know, huge challenges from the early days of grappling with unpredictable weather, you know, the turbulence of air hazards, and of course the inevitable human errors. The road, or should I say, the runway, was far from being smooth. Today, however, the Nigerian aviation sector has grown wings. And I say wings, and with it, the stakes have also never been higher. More expansive infrastructure, congested airspaces, increasing complex regulations, and of course relentless pressure to meet global standards. All of these have reshaped the industry. And for every successful flight, there has been the hard-learned lesson of balancing growth with safety and indigenous operations with global footprints. Yet, in the midst of it all, one airline has risen above, standing tall in the nation's colours and venturing into new territories. Among the giants in the sky, Air Peace is charting its own course, overcoming air hazards and navigating the pressures of global competition. So on Late Edition this week, we turn our attention to how Air Peace has not only soared, but also remained grounded in safety and innovation as it continues to navigate the ever-evolving skies. And of course, we'll look at our evolving airspace in Nigeria. I am Claire Adilabo Abdulrazak, and I thank you for joining us on this very insightful flight on Late Edition. All right, let me begin with my introductions. Hawa Oyinlola Alege is well organized and committed professional with a Bachelor of Science degree in Mass Communication, and of course from the Kwara State University, where she graduated with second class upper division. She currently serves as a communication analyst to the CEO of Air Peace Limited, where she manages media, scheduling, communication and event organization. Now, Hawa has also worked in radio journalism, gaining experience in news production, script writing, and customer relations. Her skills would include public speaking, Microsoft Office proficiency, leadership, and customer service, reinforced by professional qualifications in human resources management and customer service. Hawa is positive driven and has a strong work ethic. She's eager to contribute to the aviation success and of course handle challenges very efficiently. All right, my second guest today on Late Edition is a very familiar face, an NTA in-house analyst, Gadi Ike, an aviation researcher. He's also a publisher of many books and journals. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Estate Management with wide experience in the field. Of course, he's also widely traveled and has attended several international conferences on aviation. Gadi Ike is the principal partner, Gadi Ike and Partners, and can be best described as an aviation enthusiast. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I welcome my two guests in the studio, Hawa Alege and Gadi Ike. Thank you very much for joining me, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I used to say, I started by recalling the days. Let me start with you, Gordon, the days of Nigeria Airways. That was the glorious days of aviation in Nigeria. And, suddenly, things happened. They say Nigeria happened, but Nigeria could also happen in a positive way, you understand? And I'm wondering, take us back to those glorious years and what happened.
I must tell you that I don't know if anybody in Nigeria, has his or her heart as broken as mine is concerning Nigeria Airways, and I want to tell you why. When they were there was a time in my life, like you mentioned about how widely, my business took me right around the world. Nigeria Airways used to be known as the best airline in the world, the best pilots. Their safety record was unbeaten by anybody in the world. They were the best. And what was more, at that time, I flew them to the UK virtually fortnightly. And it was such a relationship that anytime I got to their office in Apapa, where they had their headquarters for bookings, as soon as I walked in there, they would say, "Oh, Must Fly is here." They gave me that nickname.
Must Fly.
Must Fly. And I will explain that to you so that you begin to understand how Nigeria happened to Nigeria Airways.
To the aviation industry, not just Nigeria Airways.
Yeah, but that's how it started. Yes. How it started. It turned out that what was going on at that time was that Nigerians believed so much in Nigeria Airways, and everybody was flying, and everybody was relying on Nigeria Airways to get to any part of the world. That even if you were going to where they weren't going to end up, but at least they would take you to either the UK, New York, or whatever. Then
transit.
Transit, and hand you over to other flights. But guess what was happening? The workers would book up all the seats, and then if you get in there, they would say that the plane was full.
So this also happened then?
Oh yes. Yes.
That's racketeering.
They'll tell you that the flight was full, and so if you insisted that you must, that's how I got that nickname, because I would say to them, "I must fly, find me a seat," and then they will begin to talk to each other, and one person gives up his or her ticket. And then they say, "Okay, come forward," and then they change it in the system. So what was going on then was that paid passengers constituted less than 50% of the plane capacity. The rest of them were occupied by workers who used to go to, especially London and New York, to buy stuff for a Balogu market. Yes.
Wow.
That was what was going on. And so initially I didn't understand what was happening. All I understood was that they had seen me as a regular
as a customer, as a regular, passenger.
So each time I walked in, they said, "Oh, Must Fly is here." And then you see somebody moving from one table to the other and, whispering. I didn't know what they were discussing.
But anyway, at that time, we had a national car.
We had a national
That was a national pride.
Yes.
And you said something about the Nigerian Airways then. It's safety records. Safety records.
The pilots were the best in the world.
Pilots were the best in the world.
Internationally recognized and accepted to be the best in the world.
Yes. And at the time, our skies became one of the dangerous, spaces in the world. We had frequent crashes, in fact, very fatal crashes, and we had a history.
Well, that was when things had gone so low that the people now became careless. Because if you know how these airplanes work, you would understand that if you lose it, that's if you get careless, then you begin to find airplanes dropping off the skies. I often describe those machines as very faithful machines. They are faithful. Airplanes are very faithful machines. They are built well. They, an average airplane would tell pilots, "Hey, I'm not ready to fly." You get in there, the pilot seated, and as they are configuring their routes and the flight that they want to make, something pops up and announces to you that this flight can go until you this and that are fixed. That's how wonderfully designed those machines are. Even when you are airborne, if anything is wrong, the airplane informs the pilots.
I don't want to dwell on the past.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to look forward, because we have passed. That was just getting an idea of what happened, because right now the Nigerian airspace is probably one of the safest.
Yes.
Yes. What do you think happened before we bring in the lady from the airpiece? Yes.
Number one thing that happens is that we invested more on the technology of flight separations and monitoring, because at that time of Nigeria Airways, those pilots were really fantastic in the sense that when you're traveling from one end of Nigeria to the other, at a point you begin to fly blind. Nobody saw you anymore. Neither did you see where you were going. You've charted a course. You have your bearing, and you're heading safe from instance Lagos to Abuja, and they're giving you your route bearing, and then you negotiate and head. At a point, neither Lagos nor Abuja knew where you were anymore. Until you got a little closer for Abuja, as if you were doing, for instance, Lagos to Abuja, until you got closer enough for Abuja to now pick you up. And then,
now you're frightened. That's frightening.
Oh yeah, but passengers didn't know what was going on. It was only the pilots that knew what they were going through. So as soon as you're now seen, then they begin to give you, the altitude you should maintain, and give you your new bearing and how to approach the runway and the rest of them. But that gap where neither Lagos nor Abuja saw you. You were on your own.
Oh my God.
And the poor passengers didn't know the risk they were taking. And of course, they did wonderfully well. So the difference now is that the coverage is almost 100%.
Fantastic.
Yes, that's the difference. The radar coverage is almost 100%. So every inch of Nigeria that you're flying, somebody somewhere is seeing you. That is the difference.
That's the difference. Wonderful. So let me even bring in Hawa Alege into our conversation. Of course, Hawa is representing, the communications analyst advisor to the CEO of Airpeace, and we know the role Airpeace is playing at the moment. It's one of our pride, at the moment, at least in the Nigerian airspace. And I'm just wondering. I know you're still pretty young in the business of aviation, but tell us, what do you think has been, driving force for Airpeace?
Oh well, when it comes to safety, Airpeace has zero tolerance for unsafe practices. And I could tell you for free that the evidence to show for our safety records are the approvals we get from other countries to come into their country. We got approval from Dubai, we got approval from UAE, Saudi Arabia, and also Airpeace is the first commercial airline to fly directly into Israel. I believe those are things Nigerians should see, and they should know that Airpeace, in terms of safety is our priority. And when it comes to maintenance as well, I wish you could come to our maintenance store and see billions of spare parts. That is to show you how important we take safety. Our chairman, Dr. Allen Oyema, before now has phobia for flying. He doesn't like to fly.
Just like me.
But that was before the invention of Airpeace. But when he brought on board Airpeace, the first thing he said to himself was, this will be an airline like no other in terms of safety. And I believe he has been going in that line. Our priority is safety. We have to get our people, our passengers, to their destination safely.
I also remember having a chat with him, and he also said, you know, the fundamental thing that got him into the aviation was how he was actually treated somewhere in one of the local, flights. You know,
he has phobia for flying within local routes.
You know, he said he was going somewhere, you know, during one of his trips to the Niger Delta, and one of the cabin crew in one of the, I don't want to mention the aircraft, you know, was very nasty, you know, to one of his staff, and he said, look, that was the trigger. I'm sure you want to tell us, you know, if you know some of these, you know, the inspirator, what motivated him really.
Oh well, the mission behind Airpeace. Our chairman is a patriotic citizen, and he has passion for creating job employment. So he saw aviation as an opportunity to follow his dreams, although he was naive and knew nothing about aviation when he went into it. He was told by someone that just a jet could give 1,000 people job opportunity directly, but that's not true. Yes, that's not true. But indirectly, a jet, just one, can give over 1,000 people job opportunities. Let's take, for instance, those that work at the airports, the baggage handlers, the travel agents. Those are ways of giving jobs to people indirectly. You don't have to work directly with the company before you have a job. And I believe the staff of Airpeace can attest to this, because our chairman is a philanthropist. As at those days when minimum wage was just 18,000 naira, Airpeace was already paying its cleaners 40,000 naira. And now the lowest minimum in Airpeace right now is 800,000 naira. And that's, in Airpeace, we continue to employ. We have not stopped, because that is the mission behind Airpeace, to create job opportunities, to develop the country economically.
Yes, that's quite interesting. That's quite good to hear that you are still employed in this time.
Yes.
God, the UK, where unemployment is soaring and all that.
Keep on employing.
And I'm wondering, Gadi, again, I'm looking at, you know, the evolution of our airspace. How would you evaluate the regulatory environment today? And, you know, what do you see is the main, you know, issue or the main hurdle, you know, affecting, you know, air companies, especially indigenous air companies?
I wouldn't hold the regulatory bodies, you know, really responsible for whatever, you know, lapses we are still experiencing. In all fairness, more installations have been made, more technology deployed, and like I said before, airplanes are very, you know, faithful machines. I often tell anyone that when you say brand new airplanes, for instance, it doesn't follow that a brand new airplane is safer than a 30-year-old. No, it doesn't follow.
Oh.
Planes are as old as their missed checks, and as new as their checks done. The meaning of that is, if you have a brand new airplane today that's flown for about 3, 4, 5, 6 months and is due for an air check, and that air check is skipped, it's not done, and a 30-year-old airplane that's due for a C or D check, as the case may be, depending on the usage, and sincerely undergoes the C or D check, sincerely, that 30-year-old is a safer airplane than the new one that is due for an air check
that missed it.
That missed the air check. That is a more dangerous airplane. So you see.
So what should passengers be looking at? Because really, when you're walking down the tarmac to board your plane, some of us, very naive ones, we begin to check the body of the aircraft. Oh, check where, is there any rusty parts? Is there
you won't even find any, because the alloyed metal with which the body of those airplanes are made are so strong, unbelievably strong, that it's only when there is a hard crash at very high speed. I mean, imagine a machine that is moving at about 850 kilometers an hour, or 900, some up until 950 kilometers an hour. And it hits, a hard object. That is the only time those bodies disintegrate. But as alloy metal with which those external, they look light and very fragile, but in reality, they are extremely strong and scarcely would rust. And so, if you do all the necessary changes, depending on the kind of check you want to do, either at the A or the B or the C or the D, there are all, even all that, checks that are available. Once you do them, that plane is as good as a brand new, can be trusted. A 30-year-old can be trusted better than a 6-month-old that missed his check. So it's all about human attitude. I mean, I was glad to hear from Hawa about the vision of the CEO. That's we're talking about Chief Allen Onyema, and the fact that he doesn't play with safety. And there's no gainsaying that fact by the fact that this airline is been traveling all over, Africa, traveling, to the U.S., traveling, and there's not been a time it was reported that, there was some glitch somewhere and they had to do an emergency landing somewhere and all those kind of stuff.
Now that you've triggered that question, because I have to be, how do you, or how have you been handling the, growing demand for air travel? Because at this time, where you have the history of the jackpots, a lot of Nigerians are eager. So how is Airpeace able to handle, the volume of Nigerians wanting to go out?
Oh, well, that will take me to where I'll be talking about how we've planned to expand our routes. You want to hear that now?
Of course.
Oh, well, the Nigerian government has granted us approval for Abuja to London. We fly from Lagos to London, but now we have been given approval from Abuja to London. We're just waiting for the British authorities to give us the approval. Also, the federal government has given us Lagos to Toronto, which will be starting by next year. And also, we want to expand the domestic routes, not only international. We'll be starting Asaba, Kano, Enugu, Kano, Port Harcourt, Kano, Port Harcourt, Kaduna. And as well, we're traveling to Caribbean islands, that's Antigua.
In all of this, are you also getting new? Because I don't know. I'm just asking a layman's question.
Yes.
God, you said can one aircraft, do this route?
No.
So yes,
we have ordered aircrafts.
Yes.
The wide body aircraft and the narrow ones to take our routes. We've ordered for Boeing Max 10 Max 10 and Max 8. We've ordered for Embraer E2. We ordered for 13 of them. 5 has arrived. We're waiting for 8. So we want to use the MAX 10 for our European shuttle, like Lagos to Milan, Lagos to Paris, Lagos to Dublin, Lagos to Amsterdam, and we're also thinking of adding Barbados.
Well, like I was telling you, my daughter had a heart-to-heart conversation with your MD, following an experience she had flying from Ilorin, to Abuja, and what she was told was that, look, airpace. In fact, my daughter was like, you seem to be having these issues because airpace seems to be concentrating on its global routes. That airpace seems to be neglecting the local route, and that's why you're having a lot of challenges, a lot of customer, passenger issues on the local route. I don't know, we'll come to you to address that. Yes, Mr. Ike, what do you think? So far, how do you assess airpace, surgeon?
I don't want to even say airpace. I want to be talking about the airlines flying in Nigeria. I tell you what, it's about our. I'm trying to use the appropriate word to describe our inability to enforce laws and get people do what they should do, what's right.
Earlier on, I talked to you about regulatory bodies.
Yeah.
You exonerated them.
No, you see, you wouldn't understand what they go through, even in the hands of the airline. I don't know how long Howard has been in there to also witness, some of the bashing and the arguments that ensue, especially with NCAA. But look at her. Just take a look at her and read what's coming off her face. And that's why I often say to anyone about it to listen that I really feel sorry for the NCAA. Their job is a thankless one. Nobody ever gets to say thank you to them. What they do behind the scene in order to whip the airlines. I don't want to now narrow it to airpeace. The reason we're discussing airpeace right now is that they are the largest, at the moment in the country. But then there are other airlines, and I tell you what, they seem to all be behaving the same way. And it's all about taking for granted the fact that the laws will not be enforced. And Claire, let me tell you what the little secret is that a whole lot of people don't know. Anytime you're booking a flight, in the ticketing, you have what is known as fine lines.
Fine lines?
Yes.
It's an F-I-N-E?
Yes. F-I-N-E. L-I-N-E-S. Those fine lines constitute a situation where you put in all sorts of legal jargons, turning the laws upside down, downside up, sideways if necessary. By the time you read through all what you are signing off as you are getting the ticket,
yes,
it doesn't really make sense to you anymore, because you just like the army bear, you go this way, it flips on the other way. You go this way, it flips. So at the end of the day, you find out that you can't really drag an average airline to court and win.
Really?
Yes, those are the fine lines as against what again is known in English language and of course the legal jargons as the bright lines. Okay. Which if it's left, it's wrong. It's right. It's right and it's correct. But with the fine lines, you never win.
All right, got it. We just have to take a break. It's interesting how time flies when you're having a conversation before you even get to the nitty-gritty. Time is gone. You're watching Late Edition. We'll take a short break now, and the program will continue in just a moment. Don't go away. right, we're glad to have you back on the program, late edition, and I have Godi Ike and Hawa Alege right here with me. Hawa is the communication analyst to the CEO of Airpeace, and of course, Godi Ike is an aviation expert and researcher. Let me quickly again begin with you, Mr. Ike, and I want to touch on an aspect of aviation air travel that has become very concerning, to Nigerian passengers, air travelers. And that's the aspect of customer relations. Sometimes you want to book an airline and you are concerned about, will they really travel when they say, at the right time? Will there be delays? Will there be cancellations? These are all the trauma, and I say trauma, the Nigerians have to go through when they are trying to book their flights. Why is this so?
Yeah, before we went on break, I was telling you about those fine lines and as against the bright lines. When you buy tickets, you signed off a whole lot of things that you didn't even read and you don't even know about. So the airlines are confident that worst case scenario, you go to court and you fetch you nothing. And a whole lot of passengers are also enlightened, and so they don't even bother, just make noise and walk away. But the enforcing agents, especially the NCA, who will ensure that all those rules that have been made, if you delay for so much number of hours, you're entitled to this and that, they ensure that the airlines do exactly what they. So it's those regulatory bodies that when they now choose to really do the jobs and sit up, they can devise a means of punishing the airlines so that they too can sit up. But in all fairness as well to the airlines, more often than not, the reason for some of the delays, the reasons are not necessarily because they want to delay people. There are also some, other factors.
But the frequency of the delays and cancellations and the length of time. Yes. Sometimes the delays, come consecutively. They tell you, okay, from maybe 7:30, they tell you, okay, we will fly at 8:30, and then the next time you'll hear it. Some don't even get to fly that particular day.
Oh yeah, because a whole lot has been, taken for granted. If we were to have a system where, for instance, NCAA, announces that, listen, we're not going to have this anymore. If we find out that the reason for delay is because of your own oversight or not doing the things that you putting things in order before taking on passengers that you want to take from one part of the country to the other, if they put their feet down and say, we won't take this anymore, if it happens, this is how much we're going to fine you. If you don't pay, we'll ground your airplane.
So you put it at the
they are the only people that have power to do it.
At the court of NCAA.
Yes.
So NCAA will need to sit up and enforce.
Like I said before, remember I said to you that their job is thankless. If you want to be a good boy, you won't be able to do that job. You have got to accept. You've got to accept that you're a bad boy because they're not going to like you. Just like a whole lot of the airlines don't like the name Godike because.
I want to bring in Hawa.
Yeah.
That's because I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word. Airpeace has been tagged notorious in cancellations and
I tell you why that is seeming to be so. They are the largest at the moment. They are the biggest, carriers that move people around within the country and abroad as well, within the context of Nigeria. And so the impression is what it should be because the bigger the trouble.
The trouble.
Yeah.
But the customer relations is, I don't know. How?
Oh, well, thank you very much for this question. It actually came in at the right time. But mark my words, no airline in the world gains anything by deliberately delaying or canceling flights. No. First of all, I want to use this opportunity to apologize to every of our customers who has suffered from delaying or cancellation of flights due to our operations. We're very sorry for any inconvenience we might have caused you. But having said that, when delays or cancellation occurs, most of the time it's always about safety.
Safety?
Yes. Be rest assured that we at Airpeace, when an aircraft is not serviceable, we go nowhere. We might delay you from now till the kingdom comes, but be certain to land safely. So when it comes to the aspect of delays or cancellations, it's not a deliberate action, because we believe aircraft should be in the sky, not on ground. While we're on ground, we are losing money. So tell me, which airline would want to lose money?
But sometimes when you do, even pass on the messages of the day, the customers are just left on their own. There are no messages, no reasons. You just, you come. Sometimes customers don't even know their next their move. There have been, complaints and complaints, of this.
Yeah, we have issues on that as well, because most especially the issue of third-party booking. When you use travel agents, some of them, instead of putting the name of the passenger, their numbers, the numbers of the passenger, their phone numbers, they put their own personal numbers, their emails, instead of the passenger's contacts. So when you get a message across to them, it goes to the agents, not directly to the passengers. Sometimes you get a call from passengers that, they got to the airport and they got to know their flight has been delayed or cancelled. That is not from our end, because the person who booked your flight for you is supposed to drop your own contacts, not his or her own contacts. And they will relate back to you at the right time. But passengers will come to the airports and start talking.
But isn't it your responsibility, to pass that message to your customers? How often have you done an awareness creation, which is supposed to be part of your CSR?
Oh, well, we often tell passengers, when you have a third booking, a third-party booking, ensure your contacts are yours, not the person who is booking for you. We have a situation whereby a son is booking for the mother, but he's dropping his contacts. How are we going to get directly to the mother? Because sometimes when you drop emails for these people, it takes a lot of time before they check their email. You have to do a follow-up with phone calls, but you are not getting directly to them. The person that booked will tell you, I'll get the message across to the person. But the person is already at the airport. Now it becomes our fault. Although we are trying to improve on that and trying to work on that so as to get our customers from that other side. Well, we sincerely apologize.
Yes, I know, Gadi, this is an area, so many people have had. I haven't had that experience, fortunately. I've been quite fortunate, to always, fly at the right time and depart at the right time. So I don't know if Gadi has a peculiar experience, but please talk to us also on skyrocketing fares. We really don't understand what is happening, because do you know one one route? It's almost, I don't want to name it.
I created this platform called aviation platform, Aviation International, and I tell you, most of the workers of the different departments in the airline industry are on that on that platform, and they follow what people talk about. The latest that came on Airpeace, which led to my calling in one of the workers of Airpeace to call the attention of Chief Allen Onyemato days. I eventually ended up inviting that fellow to the platform, and then copied that complaint and pasted it again for him to see and share with the people. And what was that? Somebody came up and went into the system, their own system, and got out the fare that they were charging for people traveling to the southeast from Lagos, and some very horrendous, figures.
Yes.
That they were talking about.
Yes,
and
the last I can tell you for free, 175,000 was one route from Enugu to Abuja.
And then they compared it with what those that booked for Lagos to Kano or to Maiduguri and the rest of them, and say, how can a longer distance be almost 50% cheaper than a shorter distance? And to tell you the truth, the route that is like full, always full, as against the route that can be scanty. Because I mean, the only way tickets should be more expensive is if you always take half load to go to a particular route. Then of course you
so
can,
what
can
was
increase.
what response did you get? So
I
that she can also
got
respond to that.
I got a shock, a really big shock. No response, not a word from any of them. I even sent a text to the gentleman and say, your silence is deafening. My eardrums are breaking from your silence.
We have Hawa here. Hawa, do you have any?
So I can't understand it.
Oh, well, when it comes to aviation, everything is dollarized. When it comes to aviation, the only thing you pay in Naira is local catering. And that's the one you are getting from Nigeria. If you go to international routes while coming back, you have to take catering from them. It's dollarized. The other day, our 777 had an engine issue. We had to ship in another one. The shipping costs alone was $1.5 million. That is shipping costs, not the exact price we got the engine.
No, I think what he wants to know is, let's even look at domestic routes. And within domestic routes, some, parts of the country, some regions, why is it that, the tickets for some routes cost much more, or is more expensive than others?
Yeah, I've actually heard people talking about the east parts, that their ticket is more pricely than other routes. Let's take, for instance, during Christmas, when you take people to the east side, when you're coming back with an empty plane. Who is going to pay for that? It's more or less like you are doing a charter during those period. You have to cater for coming and going.
God, you're an expert in this.
Well, you see, when I'm clear, last year, that was 2023, isn't it? Things were much better then. At that time, we were doing things like 60, 70,000 for those kind of 40, 50 minutes.
Exchange rate as at that time.
Hold on, let me land. And then I made some research, made some calculations, and then even found out what they were doing in India to enable everyone fly. The interconnectivity scheme and this cross-subsidization scheme encouraged. I was a panelist during that conference. I was one of the panelists. That was FAN Aviation Conference 2023. I was there, and then I recall sharing my research material and recommendations based on research work. And as soon as I announced it, if the CEO had what our Hausa brothers call blala, you know the whip that you
Yes,
whip
yes,
little
yeah,
children
yeah,
with.
yeah.
If he had one,
horse whip.
a horse whip. If he had one that day, he would have slammed it on my back to call me to order, you know, and ask me to be a good boy. You know, he was so angry. Picked up the phone and. It was,
So what
so
do you think?
for daring to recommend at that time that there was no reason for one-way flight to any part of Nigeria to be more than 40,000. At the time they were doing 60, 70 at that time, and I was recommending that it should come down to about 40, you know, that there are other schemes that they can put in place to, the more the merrier. A whole lot of people are not able to fly anymore. And it's not even helping the airlines.
Yes, is it?
You know?
Well, she's trying to make us, you know, understand the you know measures, of course, that are, you know, throwing this up. Of course, December period. You're talking about you know, passenger carriage. You're talking about
fuel.
She has brought in the issue of inflation. Yes. And of course the forex and all of this we do agree, but I don't know, is there any way that can be addressed, you know, such that
we are still a developing nation, and what most developing nations do in order to enable more people to fly is developing schemes that will enable airlines to make some profit and be able to maintain their airplanes without, you know, busting their pockets. That's as I speak with you, that's still going on in India. I shared it last year. Can we try out this scheme and see how it works, and see how, you know, the airlines can just be doing their job, and once there's a plane that is due for a check or something needs to, the money that will be spent is already in a pool that they will just send in the airplane to go and get the job done. It won't be the headache of the airline.
Okay.
You know, but nobody was ready to listen.
Airpiece, you know, you made noise about your 10th year and, you know, your break into global footprints. And I'm wondering how Airpiece is managing to stay afloat or stay flying, still have your wings on the global, you know, airspace. How are you coping with the competition, and what are you doing, you know? I mean, what is your vision in the next another decade?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, we are looking into connecting cities in Nigeria. We want every city in Nigeria to have a feel of Airpiece, and that is why we are reviving some of our routes. Like I said earlier about Asaba Kano, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, Enugu Kano, Enugu, and we're also looking at international routes. We're looking at Lagos Frankfurt, Lagos Dublin, Lagos Paris, Lagos Amsterdam, Lagos Antigua to the Caribbean islands, like I said earlier. And also, we're looking into expanding our corporate social responsibility as well. Yeah.
How? In what area are you in? Education? Is it
in every aspect? Like we all know, I believe every Nigerian knows that Airpiece has intervened for this country. When we talk about this xenophobic attack in South Africa, or we talk about the Ukraine and Russia, or we talk about COVID-19, Airpiece went to Malaysia, Indonesia, China. We brought in doctors from China during COVID and lots more. And recently, we brought in people from Sudan as well.
So how do you think the Nigerian aviation industry will be like in the next 10 years?
Oh, wow. If we have all we need.
Nobody has all they need.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Like
but,
what?
Well, there are gaps to be filled in terms of technological advancements, infrastructures. When we get that, I believe we'll see more than we imagine now in the next 10 to 12 years.
In terms of aviation and air travels, what is the vision? what measures do you envisage that will make it more convenient, more comfortable, and safe for Nigerian travelers in the next few years? You just celebrated 10 years.
Well, like he said, I think we'd have to go with Mr. Goody and look at the insights of the scheme he's talking about. I'll meet after the
program.
Yes,
to discuss it.
Exactly. Let's see what he's trying to bring on board. At least let me hear him out, and let's see how that goes.
We'll have to leave it at that, and I'd like to appreciate you for finding time to join us for this conversation. Thank you for giving us your own perspective. And Hawa Alege, thank you very much for flying in all the way from Lagos to share, your stories with us, the story of Airpeace, flying for the past 10 years with us. And we look forward to, collaborating more with you. I mean, NTA collaborating with you. With Airpeace, in future endeavors.
And to tell you the truth, everybody,
Nigerians
are very proud of the airline, in all sincerity, the way they're expanding and getting things.
Yes.
But that issue that has to do with
customer
fair. Yes,
right.
they have to work on it. They have to work on it.
I have to let you go. All right, that's it on this week's edition of Late Edition. I'd like to thank you and to thank our distinguished guests, of course, who have provided much insight on the aviation industry. There's so much to talk about in the aviation industry, but this edition was specifically, like I said, to look at how Airpeace has come this far. We do hope that one day we'll get the chairman of Airpeace, Chief Allen Onyema, to join us for more in-depth conversation. But we'd like to appreciate Hawa Alege, who has come to share perspectives with us. I'd like to ask you to join us again next week for another interesting episode on Late Edition. On behalf of my crew, I'm Claire Adelabu Abdurrazak. Bye-bye.